Welcome, everyone, to episode 11 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Meyerink, Tayless on the boards. With me today is our managing editor,
Kyle E. Miller,
also known as Kyle E. Miller on the boards. And also with me today is the Goose to my Maverick, or wait, no. Was Goose and Maverick were co-pilots, right? Wow. Should have watched Top Gun. Who are you?
Say, are we talking about Top Gun? I don't know. I'm Derek Heemsbergen, Embryon on the boards, and I'd rather be somebody cooler than a goose, or the goose, or any goose.
You could be Wizard, but I think Wizard dies.
I'll be the swan to your ducklet. Not that that means anything to you, but maybe Kyle knows. Okay, both of you are fired. Let's move on.
All right, moving on. Anyways, welcome back after a long hiatus. We are coming off of our Falcom extravaganza. We thought the summer topic was quite a bit of fun, so we decided to do another theme topic, and the topic is pumpkin spice, because we're putting it in everything these days, including your podcasts.
I get it! I understand. I see what you did there.
Yes, and so we called it pumpkin spice because we sort of waffled between fall themes, like the summer episode, what are summery themes, and also Halloween spooky songs. We got a little bit of both, and we're going to kind of coast through the nice fallish songs, and then we're going to enter Castlevania, and it's going to just be terrifying and
wow. And such spook. Wow, so scare.
Wow, much scare. To bring back a term that Kyle used a couple episodes ago, it's going to be very doomful. So before we get to that, we're going to go back to our recent album section, which it feels like it's been a long time since we did, because it has.
Because it is. It has.
So the first one we're going to do today is from an album which has, I am going to go ahead and call it one of the most obtuse and obnoxious titles ever. Even though I love DJ Cutman, Meow Meow and Bow Wow, a tribute to Link's Awakening, is just a really difficult album to type and a really difficult album to alphabetize. But regardless, we're doing Mabe Village from Meow Meow and Bow Wow. It might be Mabe Village, but it's Japanese, so I think it's Mabe. I just thought of that when I was wondering how to pronounce it. But anyways, so these are sort of like, they're cool. Let's just listen to it. Mabe Village from Meow Meow and Bow Wow, a tribute to Link's Awakening. challenge thee to not dance when you're listening to that song. The Link's Awakening soundtrack, I already love that whole thing just because it's so... Like, whenever I think of chiptune music or, like, the kind of classic Zelda sound, I always think of Link's Awakening. I don't even think of Link to the Past. I do like that music, but, like, it's just that sound is... That's what made chip music what it is, if you ask me, is, like, the Game Boy sound, because I always go right to Link's Awakening. And so for DJ Cutman to go and do that is, like, sort of... It's like mom meeting dad for the first time. And
oh my.
It's... What? They're just dating. But for Mabe Village or Mabe Village is a cool song. I think we played Ivy's version when we interviewed her. But I think we did. If we didn't, it's awesome. You should listen to it. It's on the Black Box.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, just like the Mario Paint sound effects and just
the cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Meow meow.
Yeah, that kind of thing would like annoy me normally, but for some reason it's infectious here.
It's cute.
It is. It's just it's adorable. That's all we can say. And that just at the end when you get the people like sighing and stuff, I just really like that song.
It's it takes the original song and it sort of adds another layer, but it doesn't take it over the top. It reminds me of I'm actually not sure if it was Cutman that did them, but the Game Chops record label has these two albums that are just called Game Chops, and I think the second one's Game Chops too. They're just older songs, mostly SNES and earlier, and most of them are just sort of laid over with hip hop beats or bass, and they're made to be listened to consecutively, and they flow together really well. But they're all just it's amazing how they can just take a song that already has a strong melody and add a cool bass line to it, and it amps it up a lot. It makes for a different sort of listening experience, but that's exactly what Mabe Village reminded me of. So
yeah, as something that DJ Cutman does live shows, and all his music is very danceable. I watched the MagFest stream last year, and just I can imagine hearing this and just seeing people all just bobbing their heads and engaging in general japery.
General japery / what is that? / rally?
/ rally. You engage in general japery. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the consensus is that we like that.
We like it. And we also like the next song. This is actually an unreleased track, technically. This is from an album called Compi de Chocobo that was released at Tokyo Game Show. It's yeah, exactly. I'd pull it up on my phone, but I'm not quick enough on the draw.
It's actually on the album.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. It is. But anyway, so this is a 2-disc album that has Chocobo songs from the entire Final Fantasy series and a bunch of spin-offs. I think it's pretty comprehensive. I don't think there's anything more comprehensive out there if you're looking for any Chocobo themes. So among all of the regular Chocobo themes, 1 through 13, they also have stuff from spin-offs, like I said, and 13 too, as well as Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn and Lightning Returns. So what we're going to play for you is actually there's 3 Chocobo tracks in Lightning Returns. We're playing Chocobo Returns, which I imagine is the general one, the one that you listen to when you're riding on a Chocobo around the Wildlands. So we're going to take a listen to that, and we'll be back. That one doesn't start out quite as punchy as your typical Chocobo theme. It grew on me, though. I didn't really like it at first. When I got a hold of this album, the thing that I was most excited to hear were the tracks from Lightning Returns, because I want that soundtrack like crazy mad. So I went straight for those, and none of them really grabbed me at first, but this one has come to be my favorite. It's got a lot of diversity in the instrumentation, which is what I think makes it stand out. After you hear the beginning part, you're just kind of like, oh, well, this is mellow, and it's not. It's just, it doesn't seem like it's that excited about itself. But
I was surprised at how laid back it is, but it does get more interesting. It's more dynamic than most of the Chocobo themes, which are just like the same thing repeated.
Yeah, I actually really like all three of the Chocobo themes from Lightning Returns that are on that album. This one isn't my favorite, but it's definitely more laid back. It feels like something you'd hear at like a jazz club when everybody's sitting back smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey on the rocks and, you know, wearing bowlers and fedoras, and it's the 1950s. And
you mean Potions on the Rocks, right?
Oh yeah, potions on the rocks, and you know you know what it reminds me of?
Cuttings, maybe? It
reminds me of that scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when Eddie goes to the club. Like, yeah. I can imagine this playing there. I really like the piano at the end, and just it's got this real kind of light, chilling with my Chocobo sound, and I dig that.
And it stands out, especially considering Lightning Returns is not a game that I look at and think, oh, happy atmosphere. So
yeah, there's like a bloody Chocobo in the video. Yeah. Really depressed me for the rest of the day. I saw it.
So I'm sure that makes for a nice respite in terms of musical atmosphere when it plays in the game.
I would agree. I see it as like, I mean, this is completely random speculation, but I see that as being like the Chocobo ranch music. And then when you ride a Chocobo, it's like, you know, one of the other songs. But we shall see in February. So anyways, our third track from recent albums today, this is from... So we all know Blake Robinson's Synthetic Orchestra at this point. He's awesome. He's cool. We don't need to overtalk him. But this is from Volume 2 of the Chrono Trigger Symphony, which is, as you might imagine, Disc 2 of the Chrono Trigger soundtrack, done in a totally cool synthetic orchestra style. And I picked this particular track, A, because it's awesome. And
no way.
Yes, way.
I don't believe you.
W-A-I. Way.
W-A-I. Why?
And it's Desolate World. You'll recognize it if you've ever played Chrono Trigger. We even played it on this show once as in its original form. But so this is Desolate World from Chrono Trigger Symphony Volume 2. that is such a perfect rendition of that song. Like, if it wasn't because on Super Nintendo it's already, I would say, perfect, because it's just so evocative, and this particular arrangement of it just really gets that desolation, and that choir is perfect, and it's like this melancholy, and like ever since I played Chrono Trigger, this part has been like the most chilling part of the game to me, obviously, because it's supposed to be, and like I think the reason that game is lodged so tightly in my memories is because you show up in 2300 AD and you've got this storm of ash and these dingy people and just everything is dejected, and the most evocative part of the atmosphere for me is this song, because it's like the song encompasses the sound of the winds of ash, and so few games actually show you the fail state. If you fail in your mission, this is what happens, and it's like everything contributes to it. Like when you get in the Enertron, it's like, you're rested, but you're still hungry, and you're like, that's
still hungry.
Every single one of these people. And so this captures all of that beautifully.
I think you said it very well. The song isn't a really diverse song, but it doesn't need to be. It's super atmospheric, and I continue to be surprised by how well Blake Robinson does in rearranging this stuff. He's crazy good.
So that does us for recent albums for the day, and I'm glad we got back to that because we had a lot of good music to cover. And the Falcom episode, we took it out because we had, a million tracks to do, but yeah. I think that was worthwhile. But here, I'm glad we got back to it. But anyways, so today's topic, as we mentioned earlier, Halloween and fall themes. So all manner of the leaves are falling and the wind is blowing and it's almost winter time, and it's not warm anymore, but it's not quite freezing cold out. So it's, you can go outside and enjoy your pumpkin spice latte with your pumpkin spice coffee, a piece of pumpkin spice cake, and perhaps be wearing pumpkin spice cologne, because those things all exist now. And we just thought you'd want to get it into your podcast too. But so for what we've done today is we have those sort of softer, relaxing fall songs lined up, and they're sort of going to lead the way. We're going to make our way through them, and we're going to eventually pass through the gates to Castlevania, and all hell is going to break loose, and it's going to get dark and evil and disturbed and twisted, and not a moment of respite. It's going to be frightening. So I believe Derek and Kyle picked our first 3 tracks, so if you gentlemen would care to introduce them.
Absolutely. So I hope that you guys are going to be listening to this on a suitable day, perhaps Halloween, if possible. We're going to take you through a variety of moods, like Steven said, but we're going to start out pretty gentle here. I don't want to freak you out right away. So the first thing we're going to listen to is a song called Morning Fog in the Village. This is from a sort of little-known PlayStation 2 RPG called Sugunai Atonement. The soundtrack is titled in Celtic, and I cannot pronounce it, so I will not attempt to.
I believe it's Ankinuit. Something along those lines.
Yeah, nice try. So this is a song that is absolutely going to remind you of Mitsuda's other work specifically. It has a strong Xenogears vibe to me. So after that, Kyle picked his first track for the day.
So autumn always reminds me of, you can go outside, but it's getting colder, and you always want to have like a nice, warm place to come back to. So I always associate it with like folk music and inns and taverns, when you can come in and get a warm beverage or a beer, something to warm you up after being outside. So I chose A Watering Hole in the Harbor, which is one of the tavern themes from The Witcher 2. I know, it's predictable.
Predictable, but awesome.
There are a lot of in themes that could work for this, but this is one of my favorites.
I agree, this is a great song.
And following that, I picked another track. This one is from Ni no Kuni. It is the Golden Grove, which is an area that you visit pretty early in the game. It is predictably a golden grove. Autumny leaves everywhere and chilly atmosphere, kind of. I'm sure there is a chill wind blowing through that place. But when I was composing my list of picks for this episode, I was trying to go for things that remind me of autumn, like Kyle said, sort of abstract concepts like warmth and colors like orange and gold. So this is a song that encompasses those things. So we're going to listen to Morning Fog in the Village from Sugunai Atonement, A Watering Hole in the Harbor from The Witcher 2, and Golden Grove from Ni no Kuni, and we'll be back. Morning Fog in the Village paints a really vivid picture of a misty, cool morning in a village with the sunlight filtering through the tree branches and the peasant villagers clad in burlap brown going about their business.
And cute dogs barking in the distance.
He's not cute, but he is barking. This is a track that does remind us of Yasunari Mitsuda a lot. It's almost indistinguishable, really, from some of his other stuff, like on Xenogears.
Yeah, and, I never thought I'd reach a point in my life, growing up as a massive Mitsuda fan, like, loving that guy's work. And I never thought I'd get to a point in my life where I was like, you know what, this is almost too Mitsuda for me. Like, again, this could be that I haven't played the game, which, speaks to... I don't have any attachment to the song, because I'm listening to it and I'm going, I really like this song. And there was a time in my life when I would have been like, oh, I adore this. And, it's such beautiful music. It's so well composed. All of those things are things that you can say about Mitsuda's music. But I would have a very difficult time distinguishing this from any of his other pieces. From Somabringer, from Chrono Cross, from Xenogears. It's just, it's excellent, but it feels safe for Mitsuda.
Well, the game itself is not supposed to be all that good from what I hear. It's just sort of a bland, muddy-looking generic PS2, or it was like a really early PS2 RPG. Kyle and I we Googled the name, and we were just reading captions from screenshots to each other. Like, an astral body. I can't believe I'm seeing one for the first time. I don't really know anything about the game.
It is pretty anonymous, but I think that and the Golden Grove, they are reminiscent of a stroll in the forest, or an area where there are a bunch of trees, and like it might not be completely sunny out like it is in the autumn, like just like a little bit of sun coming through the clouds, but it looks brighter outside because of all the leaves, and I don't know, I get that.
I would agree with that. I think I actually feel pretty similarly about both of those tracks. The Golden Grove, we're kind of going out of order, but that's okay. The Golden Grove, Derek and I both said it reminds us of Koichi Sugiyama and Dragon Quest. And again, not a knock on it, because Joe Hisaishi is really talented and Koichi Sugiyama is really talented. I'm not the biggest fan of Dragon Quest music, and this one didn't really latch itself on me. But again, could be that I haven't played the game. That said, in terms of being evocative of the theme, without a doubt, 100% accurate.
Yeah, it's got kind of a bounding, mischievous melody. Like, I imagine little critters running about through the tree leaves and stuff and hiding in piles of autumn leaves. So I just said the same thing twice, but yeah, so...
Piles of autumn leaves. Piles of autumn leaves.
Piles of autumn leaves being piles of autumn leaves. I'm not wordy today.
That's
and
okay.
Then a watering hole in the harbor was remarkably melody driven. I haven't really played that much of The Witcher 2, maybe like 3 hours. I know Kyle's a huge fan. We've talked about it before, but yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I'm letting you down. But plenty of games that you need to play that you haven't, so we don't want to go there, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle. That song, I love The Witcher 2's music, all of it universally. I'm glad Kyle comes on the show and always brings it up, because it frees up one of my selections, and I would want to pick The Witcher 2. But anyways, it reminds me of just like sitting in a pub, like made of stone and like worn down wood, with these like, circular windows that look like they've been hewn by like rough hands, and you're sitting there looking at piles of leaves, piles of autumn leaves, piles of autumn leaves outside the window. Piles of autumn leaves outside the window. And, it's just great. Piles of autumn leaves. Piles of autumn leaves.
And then
piles
when
of
you
autumn.
Say that 3 times into a mirror and somebody brings you a mug of pumpkin spice. Go on, though.
No, that's all I got. I've always enjoyed that track from The Witcher.
It's really colorful, and I think one of the great things about The Witcher 2 in particular, not so much the first game, is that despite being like really dark and like, quote unquote grim dark fantasy, like there are these moments of really bright fantasy and like almost like fairy tale kind of fantasy.
Yeah, like
I think that's one of the things that makes that game so special.
I agree with you completely. I think even in the game, it's very serious, but with between Geralt's wit and the way you run into people and just like the way the conversations can happen, there are moments of I don't want to say levity, because that makes it sound a little too light, but there's moments of peace.
I don't know. I've thought of writing an editorial about it, so
you should. Maybe. And you can link people to your super favorite music podcast where you frequently pick tracks.
Yep.
Well, that does it for that block of tracks. Nope.
Are we getting into the dark stuff yet?
Not yet. We're not getting into the dark stuff yet. We're getting there. We have a little more peace and quiet, and then some utter insanity before the dark stuff. But so I picked the first two of our next tracks. The first one is "Land of the Spirits" from Shadow Hearts from the New World, because none of you people love Shadow Hearts 3 enough, and I'm ashamed of you.
I hope you're not talking to me.
Well, no, I'm not talking to you or Kyle, because I know you guys appreciate it. But gamers and people who are listening, go play Shadow Hearts 3 and stop hating it because it doesn't have Yuri. It's an awesome game.
It has a giant cat that's drunk.
His name is Mao, and it has Frank, the American ninja.
Okay. Well, he's terrible, but forget about him.
Terribly awesome. But yes, so Land of the Spirits from Shadow Hearts 3. And then this is a track that has not been released yet. I may have borrowed it from the game files on Final Fantasy XIV. But this is from... the title is just Limsa Lominsa Field 4. The first time I heard this song when we were playing Final Fantasy XIV, I literally just... First of all, I used literally wrong. Well, actually, no, I didn't. I was going to be literal. Whatever. But... So this happens to Steven a lot, but I'm running around in my chocobo. I'm on it's this place called Raincatcher Gully, and there's water flowing. It was nighttime, and it was raining, and the lighting effects when it rains are gorgeous in that game, and there's like this soft lantern with this guy right next to a boat, like kind of getting ready to give you a ferry ride, and this song started playing, and I just flat out, my jaw dropped, and I just stopped. And I muted the Skype call I was on with you guys, and was just, this is a gorgeous song. So yeah, that's by Masayoshi Soken, who you should be watching because he's he's not really an up and comer at Square Enix. He's pretty well ensconced there, but he's awesome.
He's out of control good. His stuff is. I'm amazed by how good and diverse his music is, and I've said it before, and it's heathenous to say. Can I say heathenous? Is that an acceptable conjugation?
We can say doomful. You can say heathenous. This
heathenly. Yeah, I don't know, but I honestly think that Soken's work on Final Fantasy XIV outpaces Nobuo Uematsu's work, like, by far.
Easily. I would. There are people who disagree, and I've heard them talking about it in-game, and it's okay.
We know what happens to people who disagree. They're wrong, and they're shunned.
Much like those who don't like the Chrono Cross soundtrack in-game. And and then, Kyle, you picked our third track, my long introduction aside.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just called Large Map Last Area from Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne.
Yeah.
And that's pretty dark, actually, so we are getting into...
Yeah, we're getting darker. I forgot about that track, and I heard it, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I totally forgot. So let's go ahead and take a listen before we talk any further. We got Land of the Spirits from Shadow Hearts 3, Limsa Lominsa Field 4 from Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn, and Large Map Last Area from SMT 3. the percussion in Land of the Spirits is amazing. That's the song that plays in the Grand Canyon, and I always imagined when I was playing it that the reason you have that really like light, like the woodwinds that are great, and like that deep bass and the percussion is you get this sense of the sound echoing up out of the canyon, and that's always the way I viewed that song. And just as soon as we thought the fall topic, that was immediately the first song that popped into my head. I was like, oh, the Grand Canyon. I didn't know it was called Land of the Spirits. I forgot, but it's Grand Canyon song from Shadow Hearts 3. Easy.
It's kind of folky, kind of something that I would imagine playing maybe at a ritual of some kind, not necessarily a rain dance or anything.
Piles of autumn leaves, piles of autumn leaves.
Piles of autumn leaves. So, yeah, good fall track, good pick.
It's not the one I would pick from the Shadow Hearts series. I'd pick one of the scary ones, but we have enough scary.
We do.
But no, it does. It goes along well with what we've been talking about, just this kind of the gentler side of autumn, which I love as much as the frightening side.
Me too. And then the second track, Limsa Laminsa, the field track, I spoke quite a bit about it beforehand, but I love that slow build into the percussion, the freaking bagpipes. How often are bagpipes awesome? And then just a backing choir.
They're awesome in the Witcher soundtrack as well.
You're right.
But, from everything, all the music that I've heard from FF14 has been really good. Like, surprisingly good.
That's what I'm saying about Soken. He's awesome.
You guys are totally right. This one's awesome.
Yeah, the chorus in that song really sucks you in. It's listening to it with headphones, it kind of washes over you, and you feel like you're in a bubble.
Yeah, that's like I said when we were playing it, and I was on that pier. It was dark and rainy, so I couldn't see that far. And there was just the light of this lantern on the water with this little boat, and this Rogadin standing there. The Rogadins are like the big giant guys, just standing there holding the lantern, and like just the everything kind of undulating in the rainy breeze because the rain effects in that game are gorgeous. And just that song comes on and washes over you is the best way to put it. Like I just sat there and I was like, this is like when that song starts playing, I can't continue playing the game because I'm just like I just have to stand here on my chocobo and just let time pass me by.
Music is Steven's kryptonite.
It is. That's why I had 110 hours or something on the first Kingdom Hearts the first time I played it, because I left it on in Traverse Town whenever I was doing homework. Yeah, large map, last area, also an awesome track that I totally forgot about.
So did I. I haven't heard that probably since I played the game, and I was like, oh, it's this one with the guitar. Well, there's a lot of stuff with guitar and Nocturne, but I digress. It's an excellent choice. To be honest, I'm not getting the fall theme from it, though. Love the song.
Let me explain.
Yeah, please
do.
I chose this one because I find this song very, very apocalyptic. And that's something that I associate with fall because basically it is, speaking metaphorically, it is the apocalypse, the annual apocalypse of nature, Mother Nature.
It's the tree apocalypse.
Essentially, yeah. So that's why I included this one.
I know.
It's intimidating and it has a very dark feeling, and it just feels like everything's coming to an end.
Piles of golden leaves.
Piles of golden leaves. Tree apocalypse. All hail the tree apocalypse. Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Your reasoning, you explained it to me earlier, and I found that to be a very good justification for why we included it with this topic. And my notes, I wrote great sense of finality to that song, because if I recall, it only plays when you're in the area of Kagatsuchi, so you're probably not there that long in the game. And it's such a good song that, like, I think that's why I didn't remember it, because I just remember hearing an awesome song, but then I'm like, oh, it must have been some other song that I heard. But just you get the Meguro riff and guitars, you get this awesome build-up, like, just, it suits the name Last Area, and I think it's an outstanding track, so kudos.
Yes, very unconventional. All right, so...
Speaking of unconventional...
This next track, I think, is a great bridge into the darker stuff, because much like the song that it was almost... Obviously, there's no way it couldn't have been inspired by this song. This song is Good King Mogglmog 12. It's a song that's from Final Fantasy 14. It was in the original version of the game, and it's going to be in A Realm Reborn as soon as they re-add this fight. But this song is pretty clearly hawked from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Somebody watched his Tim Burton that night.
Yeah, I guess so. This is a song that plays when you're fighting the Moogle King and his subordinates, and it's this really goofy, sing-along kind of song that describes the Moogle King and each of his little Moogle helpers in detail and what they do. The lyrics are a little bit hard to understand because it's very it's almost kind of grating. Like the voices are very impish and
Mooglish,
and cackling and silly. Yeah, again, I'm going to use mischievous again to describe how it is, but very odd song, really weird choice to put in a game, but I think it's so out there crazy that it works. So let's take a listen, and I
think we should warn everyone, though, that this is like a debilitating earworm.
Yeah,
so
I was just about to say that.
If you're prone to these things, do not listen to this.
Or do listen.
I
will tell you, I listened to it once this morning, not even in completion, and I have been singing it all day, like just the main melody and you know what? We're talking it up. Go King Mogomog 12.
I warned you.
Piles of autumn leaves. Piles of autumn leaves. Good King Mogomog.
So cultish. There's the song actually in the game before he uses his super attack at like the midpoint of the fight, which is called Memento Moogle, by the way. It's just the song, just the Good King Mogomog without any of the other lyrics. And then once everything gets cray, that's when all the lyrics come in and you're like, ah! And there's 6 Moogles running around with different Final Fantasy jobs. There's like a thief, a white mage, a black mage, and they're all slinging spells at you. And his big thing is like he'll drop like a Moogle meteor on your head and stuff. It is an insane, frantic fight, and this song could not be more fitting. And it's also
sounds awesome, like
ridiculously catchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? If you're gonna do an homage to something, and by homage I mean if you're gonna rip it off wholesale and change the lyrics. At least do it right, and they did. Master Silken did this one too, and just that one part when it's like, "What do you decree? What do you decree?" I'm like, "Come on, everybody, scream!" Like, I really want to read some liner notes on that. Like, if we ever actually we could interview Silken. We should email Square about that. But yeah, that song we blocked it out on its own because, well, you heard it. It was nuts. But now it's time to start getting a little spooky. So the first track in our next upcoming block, John Tucker picked this one. And so we wanted to do honor to him. This is a little Pokemon theme for you. It's a Pokewood Theme of Horror from Pokemon Black and White 2. And then I picked the middle track, and I got some more King's Quest on here. This is from King's Quest V. It's the Dark Forest theme.
Yeah,
which
it's not Girl in the Tower, at least. So.
No, it's not Girl in the Tower. It's very, very atmospheric track, which you'll hear that. There's a little bit of a build-up. And then, Kyle, you picked the last track?
Yeah, Destiny's Stage from Castlevania Order of Ecclesia.
So let's go ahead and do a little Pokewood Theme of Horror, Dark Forest, and Destiny's Stage.
Yeah, Pokemon isn't that scary. But
Hey, no, some of the
if
some of the
it was-
descriptions, like Pokedex descriptions, are creepy. Like Drifloon, the balloon Pokemon. It's like children grab onto its tendrils and then they're taken away and kidnapped and they presumably die. Yeah, or there's like Bennett. It's a puppet Pokemon that came to life because of its sheer hatred, and its mouth is a zipper, and if it's unzipped, then cursed energy flows out.
All right, well, these freaks live in the Pokewood.
What?
Yeah, they have to. Yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of messed up Pokemon stuff. One of the most recent ones, Honedge. It's a sword that if you grab its hilt, it'll wrap its there's like a ribbon around the hilt. It'll wrap the ribbon around your arm and suck the life out of you because you're not worthy of holding it.
I just put that one in my party.
Yeah,
and wow.
I know. It's gonna kill you.
I'm gonna put it back in the box.
There's some messed up Pokemon things going on.
You open Pandora's box. You can't close it. I'm glad we had this discussion of Pokemans because I actually had very little to say about that track. I liked the very strong piano chords, but beyond that, I kind of
I don't really.
to use a Scrubs quote. I didn't hate that track. I nothinged it.
Same. Oh my god, same.
Oh my god, same. I remember when I first started saying same.
Same.
It was in high school.
Oh my god, same. I don't think we're ever gonna stop making Arrested Development references, and that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, because when you make an Arrested Development reference, it just reminds me of Piles of Autumn Leaves.
Piles of Autumn Leaves. Piles of Autumn Leaves.
Speaking of Autumn Leaves, so I gave you guys a little story about the Dark Forest while we were saying, but just for those of you who have not played King's Quest V, which at this point I'm assuming is everybody, there's this spooky forest when you first start the game that you walk close to, and it says "Stay out," or I can't remember the exact verbiage on the sign, but the gist of it is don't come in here. And if you do, one of two things will happen. You go in unprepared and you'll make it a few screens in and then realize that it's an endless circle and you can't escape. And the spooky witch will show up and immediately curse you and turn you into a frog or stone, I can't remember, some sort of thing that you would not like to be transformed into. And so that song is playing and you hear that background audio, and it's a different version because that's like a remastered version of the track and not the original MIDI. But you're wandering this dark forest, and you eventually get an amulet that protects you from the witch, but she follows you everywhere until you figure out how to stop her, which you give her a cursed genie bottle and she gets trapped in it. And then you can freely explore this forest, which is it's got her house in it, and it's a very spooky looking, and you can't get out, and you have to solve all these puzzles to find your way out of there. And it's just this really tense part of the game because if you enter too soon, you're in a fail state. You can't escape. So that's a big reason a lot of people don't like those older games because they're short, so I don't think it's a problem. But you can, if you're not judicious in making saves, you could end up stuck and have to start over. But that forest is just so spooky, and you're totally alone, and there are like eyes in the back of the woods looking at you, and that I love how that twangy, really heavy, that boom, just kind of, it gives it that real sense of just spooktacularness.
It's got the whole ambient sound effects thing going on, lending an atmosphere, like the bog bubbles popping and the ravens cawing and stuff, the bugs buzzing. I don't know. The nouns verbing. There are things happening.
The nouns verbing. It's okay if you nothing that track. You can tell me.
No, it's all right. I nothing it less than I nothing Poke would.
I feel like that one captures the atmosphere well. It's not something I listen to on a regular basis, but it reminds me of a very specific moment, and I think it's got as a middle track of Spooky Forest. It's thumbs up.
Yeah, I think with your anecdote, it's creepy. It's a nice addition.
Cool. What about yours, Kyle? Destiny Stage. I like it. It's one of my favorite tracks from that game.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite tracks as well. I don't know. All the music in that game is there's actually quite a bit of variety, but it's just so evocative, and some of it's kind of ridiculous, but that's Castlevania, I guess.
Yeah, and especially that one because it has such a variety of locations compared to previous games.
Right. This one is just so eerie, and that's the perfect word for it.
I think it portends danger much, and which is incredibly appropriate for the next block of tracks that we're going to play.
Yeah, so one more note on that. When you say it portends danger. I wrote, has a sense of unfolding drama, and the heavy, twangy bass gives it a sense of F-U-U-U-U-U-U-U-U-U-U.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, portending creepiness is exactly the vibe I would give it.
Out of curiosity, wait, no. When you read F-U-U-U-U-U-U, what do you hear in your head? I hear Fuh!
I hear Fuh! Basically what you hear me say every time we're fighting bosses in Final Fantasy.
Kyle's like, Fuh.
The Japanese teacher laugh.
Oh, yeah. I love the Ojo-sama laugh. That needs to make a comeback.
It does.
All right, so we're actually going to play... our next block of tracks is mega super creepy. I'm sorry. I'm not as sorry for this as I'm going to be for one later on.
No.
But we're going to start with another Michiru Yamane track. This is from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's Requiem for the Gods, and I believe this is
Amazing.
one of the... I think this is a song that plays plays higher up in the castle, not in the clock tower, but in, I forget what the area is called. It's
I could be wrong, but I think it's the cathedral. But I could be wrong.
The cathedral. I think you're right. Yeah,
moves.
well, it's called Requiem for the Gods, so that would be appropriate, right?
And I misspelled it in the notes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I know how it's pronounced. And after that, we're going to play the Clock Tower Final Day song from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask by Koji Kondo. This song is, like, soul-crushingly bleak to me. I almost can't listen to it, but I'm going to make you listen to it because I'm not nice.
And we're going to talk about it in lieu of the Ben Drowned story, because that I've never played Majora's Mask, and with that song and the story, that creepy cursed cartridge story, and then, you know, just to keep the creepness going, one of our new editors, Josh Bateman, he's also a listener to the show. He goes by Jotacon on the site, but I prefer to call him Joctagon because I like octagons.
Have you entered the Joctagon?
6 years spent fighting in the Joctagon. Wow, that sounds actually kind of weird. But anyways, yeah, we're doing from Xenosaga Episode 1 Albedo's theme, because you can't do spooky themes without that. Just when you're listening to that, just imagine him jamming his hand all up into Momo and it getting censored.
Oh my god.
And like ripping his head off. Oh, it comes back! Perfect voice acting. But anyways, Requiem for the Gods, Last Day, and Albedo.
I could have picked anything from Castlevania Symphony of the Night that would have fit this topic because A, the entire game has got a cool, creepy atmosphere, and B, that soundtrack is phenomenal. I think it's one of Michiru Yamane's best works, and it's really timeless. I was going to pick Abandoned Pit because I think that's creepier, but it's a short loop, and this one is a lot more melodic, so this is what I went with. It's got that chill wind, and it's the chorus, and ooh, creepy.
Abandoned Pit. Well, one of the things I really like about that song is that part in the very beginning when it sounds like the sound could be either a very creepy sounding wind breezing through, and but it could also sound like somebody's screaming, and I really like that sort of confusion of the two sounds. I don't know if that was the intent when it was composed, but that's the vibe I always get from it. And then, of course, you've got some church bell in there every now and then, which is always great for spooks. On that note, last day, Majora's Mask. So, let's be honest, Majora's Mask is the creepiest game in history, only because of that bend round video. If you haven't seen it, it's a creepypasta. Go, at this point, it's on YouTube. Some guy wrote a story about how, he bought a weird, unlabeled Majora's Mask cartridge at a yard sale from some guy, some creepy peddler, and, it was cursed, and, the Link figure would unanimate and scream at the screen, and, the name would change, and it would change to Ben died, and, oh, what a terrible fate has befallen you, and it was nightmarish. Horrible. Almost as bad as Slender Man.
Well, Majora's Mask in general is a really creepy game. There are elements of it that aren't creepy and fairly in line with Zelda, but I think it's almost the juxtaposition of that sort of Zelda normalcy with all of the weirdness. Like every time you put on a mask, Link screams his lungs out into the camera, and this song that we picked last day obviously plays in the last day. It's when the moon is falling down and it's about to crush the earth and
Kill
you're gonna
everybody.
die, and it's unrelentingly oppressive. And there are a lot of Zelda games that I think are better than Majora's Mask. Well, a lot is kind of mean to say. There are Zelda games that are better, but there are none that are quite as unique, and definitely none that are as creepy as Majora's Mask.
You play as young Link in that one, right?
Yeah, the whole time.
It is chronologically, it's a sequel to Ocarina of Time.
Right, as far as I'm aware, because it's it shows him in the very beginning riding Epona through a forest, and then Skull Kid runs away with Epona. Skull Kid knocks him over and takes Epona and is a jerk throughout the rest of the game, but it's not his fault. It's because of Majora's Mask. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So Majora's a jerk.
Yeah, well, Majora's a super jerk and is incredibly creepy. That's a mild spoiler, I guess.
Yeah, no spoilers, because Nintendo hinted that they might be remaking it, and they said to look towards Link Between Worlds for that, but whatever. Yeah, creepy song.
Yeah, we're getting dark here. That song was just made me despondent.
I almost can't listen to it.
I won't be listening to it again unless I play the game, because it's not because it's bad, but because it's so good.
Does it play frequently in the game?
It plays on the final day only. I think it plays in the few final hours.
So
right before the moon's gonna crash.
Now, if I'm not wrong, you can't go to those hours till the end because you can't the song, or you do get to that part several times.
Yeah, you get to it several times, and you just have to rewind. You have to rewind time to the first day by playing the Song of Time. But in the very beginning of the game, you have to let it get to that point because that's how you get the ocarina. Is you get to the last hour or so, which is when the clock tower opens up, and that's where you finally go and face Skull Kid, who's wearing Majora's Mask. But you can't defeat him at first, so you have to get the ocarina and figure out how to travel back in time. So you do actually experience that moment several times in a sense. It's just every time it's nerve-wracking because it's if I don't rewind time, it's game over and I'm dead. It's
funny because I have such an aversion to Ocarina of Time, but the more I hear about Majora's Mask, my friends have been telling me for years, because my favorite part of Zelda is finding secrets, and I hear this one is just, most of Majora's Mask is optional, I hear, and yep. I really want to try it. It just sounds so bizarre and different, really cool.
It really does. It sounds surreal.
Very unusual.
I hope they remake it.
I do too. Speaking of surreal and bizarre and utterly mind-bogglingly terrifying, Albedo, this is the guy who, in the second game, is screaming at you in the final battle to cause as much pain as you possibly can for him. And he, this guy rips his head off just to screw with you, and he's like, and, grows it back, and the voice actor is perfect. Just that spooky, that's not a Gregorian chant, but that male chant, just the stuff of nightmares is Albedo's theme, and it's
really madness,
Yep.
Yes.
It's completely mad. Great choice, Joshua.
Very dissonant. It's wham, wham, wham. Such a good song for a series of really fantastic games. I would say. I would say maybe.
Yeah, we we were discussing actually while we were listening that I think all of us like Xenosaga a lot and are kind of bummed that it's gotten sort of crapped on by fans in recent years. Like I understand that 2 had a sort of busted, like the whole guard zone system or break zone, I forget what it's called, and it was too focused on a couple of characters. But overall, the series, I really wish it would have gone to 6 episodes like it was supposed to, because my God, like. Yeah, what a cool story with awesome characters, except Shion is stupid and I hate her. But
you could really tell by the third one when they were like jamming entire wars into the codex. You were like, all right, we got the whole story here at least. We just got it in a very condensed form. It's just kind of a shame because, like, I think we go through these phases in the gaming world where it's like everybody loves a game, then everybody has to hate it now because there's that generation of people that loved it, and then, now everyone hates it. So now it's always like, Xenosaga, that's the game with the stupid long cutscenes. And I'm like, yes, we don't go into a Xeno game expecting short cutscenes. You don't go into a Metal Gear Solid game not expecting bizarro nonsense. It's just, it's like you don't play Pokemon because you want a story about fighting God. You have to have the right expectations for your game.
Well, there is Arceus, but
I don't know what that means.
He's the creator Pokemon. He's like the original Pokemon that created the universe, supposedly.
What?
Yeah, and then you can encapsulate him in a tiny ball.
What?
Yeah.
When? Where?
You can capture God in a ball?
Yes. Black and white, guys. Come on.
Oh, it didn't happen in my game.
Well, he's like a special event Pokemon. You have to download the event trigger or whatever. I forget the item that lets you get to him. But anyway, we're digressing a lot here.
That got real.
Yeah, it did get real. We're going to move on to another block of tracks. Steven, hit us.
Hit us. All right, so I am double whammying you with Yoko Shimomura because she's the greatest composer ever. And so I really struggled over this first track because there were one of 3 tracks from Birth by Sleep Final Mix I wanted to pick. In Birth by Sleep Final Mix, now that it's coming out, I don't want to outright spoil. But essentially, the Birth by Sleep we originally got here, there were 3 characters. You played each of their stories, then you got a final chapter with one of those characters to fight the real final boss and see the true ending that led into other Kingdom Hearts games. And then in Final Mix, you get a chapter after that where you fight the first Heartless ever. And it's really cool and very, very dark and atmospheric, especially if you've been a fan of the series since the beginning, because you're seeing some areas that you've only seen in cutscenes before. Just really creepy and dark, and just it's like this sense of what are these things, and it's just some of the best environmental storytelling they've done in the series. And so there's the theme for that world, the battle theme for that world, and the boss theme for that world, which are all super creepy, but I decided to go with Night of the Dark Dream, which is the song that plays in the background when you're not in combat, because I think it really captures this sense of unease and just confusion really well. So there's Night of the Dark Dream from Birth by Sleep Final Mix, and then you can hardly do a horror-themed RPG podcast and not include something from Parasite Eve, so I dropped a little Missing Perspective on you. Could have picked a lot of tracks in that game, but we went with those. And then, Kyle, you picked our next one?
The amazing Mortuary from Planescape Torment.
Ooh,
a lot of tracks we could have picked from that, too, I think, but Mortuary is the most appropriate.
Yeah. The most appropriately named, that's for sure.
It's a creepy area too. I've actually played that part, and I think that's a good choice. So coming up, we've got East Meets West, Night of the Dark Dream, Missing Perspective, and Mortuary. One of the reasons I picked Night of the Dark Dream is just that it has this abiding sense of loneliness to it that just it's perfect for the scene. I don't want to spoil it because it's the game is going to be coming out again, and I'm sure a bunch of people are going to get to play it for the first time. But suffice it to say, you're in an area and the background is all black, and you're just running on this winding road, and it's just your character. It's just like this monsters and. It's so, I would say, unlike anything else in Kingdom Hearts because it's this moment that is sort of it's pivotal in the fiction of the series, which at this point has become ridiculous. But for a while, it was really great, especially at this part. And I really, really like that song.
Parts of it remind me of Moonlight Sonata, actually, which goes perfect with the feeling of loneliness because I always find that song beautiful, but in a really melancholy way.
I agree.
And, it's similar.
I haven't played Birth by Sleep Final Mix, obviously, but I know exactly which character this is taking place with and exactly what area it's in. And the song evokes the fear and the sorrow of that character. So it's very effective at creating the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's that really, really sparse. I think it's like some strings, like a violin or something. And just that really sparse, really high-pitched notes. You have like these rather low... I'm going to try to get music-y here, but you have like these really low chords that are like very deep, but then you have a very high-pitched kind of melody going with it, and it's as sparse as the environment and adoration. And then
after that we listened to Missing Perspective from Parasite Eve. To me that sounded kind of like I would almost say it's a Halloween espionage song, like some kind of a spy mission but taking place during Halloween. I know you guys had some different thoughts.
That's interesting. This was actually my hidden track, my secret final track, before I knew that it was included in this. So I love this. A lot of the soundtrack is just fantastic.
It's
really creepy, gothic, and dark. This one almost sounds like it reminds me of the X-Files theme and the Halloween theme.
Yeah,
the movie Halloween.
I agree completely.
So just a really classic sounding, kind of haunting melody.
It's the dissonant chords on it are like, or I don't know if it's dissonance the right word, but it has this sort of like, it sets you off to unease, and it really captures that like the 1990s New York. It's snowy and desolate, and there's all of this crazy nonsense happening, and it really captures that sort of sense of the unease in this game, because the whole thing is like, I mean, people's bodies are rebelling against them and killing them and turning them into monsters. What is creepier than body horror?
The first scene in Parasite Eve gave me nightmares for a long time. They're the first CG.
With the rat?
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Mortuary from Planescape Torment, and this is like, I mean, how appropriate can we be? The title and everything, and it does play while you're in a mortuary, because you actually wake up in a mortuary in the game, and you basically play this. He looks almost like Frankenstein's monster, basically.
Yeah.
But he's basically this like sort of undead amnesiac, and of course there's Mort in the talking skull that you meet in the mortuary as well.
Oh, you mean Dave?
Yes, it is Dave. You can never play that game again in the same way.
Yeah, every time you see it, I'm like, Dave is with me. Program us a way out of it. But as a song, I always thought this about Mortuary, that you get this, like, if it was a physical surface, I would imagine darkness seething right underneath it, and you being able to kind of make it out. And that's the visual metaphor I'm using for what Mortuary makes me feel.
It's just so creepy. Like, the little wavering sounds in it are just like distant. They remind me of like distant wails from zombies, and so creepy.
I wouldn't want to be trapped anywhere with that song playing.
No, especially not as a recently awakened corpse.
Under any circumstances, really, but that would make it worse.
Right? So we're coming up to our finale almost. So we got 2 more tracks before then, and the first one is, I kind of cheated. I wanted to include the third birthday, because even though I think the game is kind of awful, the music is great, and there are a lot of arrangements of tracks from Parasite Eve 1 and 2, and so this way I could cheat and include the same game twice, kind of. So the track I included is Escape from UB, which is Ultimate Being, for the third birthday, which is by Mitsudo Suzuki and Tsuyoshi Sekito, and the original track plays after you kill the final boss in Parasite Eve 1. It starts to chase you off this like tanker ship, and it's this really, really creepy, like burn, 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 like, but it's very repetitive. And this version is kind of a really cool. It has that original section, and then it sort of has this new portion that's really just creepy and kind of, it sets you to unease, and I like it. So we got Escape from Ultimate Being for the third birthday, and then Kyle, you're going to give us our final moment of respite, are you not?
I am. It's Souls of Fire from Dark Souls. It's actually the main menu theme from Dark Souls, and it's one of my favorites, and because it's very peaceful, but there's this ominous undercurrent that you will hear, and that will lead perfectly into what we have coming after this.
The nightmare we have awaiting for you. All right then, coming up, we got Escape from Ultimate Being for the third birthday and Souls of Fire. So Escape from Ultimate Being is pretty unnerving.
It sounds like you're being pursued.
Yeah, that pulsating rhythmic beat.
It really does.
Like Nemesis is running after you.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that because it's this blob of garbage at this point that's just chasing you on a tanker ship, and I had nightmares about this as a younger kid because I marathon Parasite Eve 1 and 2 because I remember I'd always wanted to play them, and I was like visiting my uncle for the summer in Massachusetts, and we were up in New Hampshire. Like they had like a I would call it a vacation house, but it was a trailer. But it was still super comfy in the woods, and like they had a TV, so I could play PlayStation on it. And I had just gotten Parasite Eve 1 and 2 from like a GameStop. And so I literally, over the course of 2 days, I just non-stop marathon both games. And to this day, I think, because I was emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted, it was like 3 in the morning when I was doing this sequence where this glob is chasing you and like the pre-rendered backgrounds are fighting you because like the doors have this weird opening condition and like it's just that breakdown. Well, that's the original track. This one has a little more to it, and I love what they did with it. It does give you a sense that you're being chased. That breakdown where they have the choir. It's such a cool pursuit song, and just a cool song in general, and I think they did a great job mixing it for the third birthday. And I've seen the scene it plays in the third birthday, and kind of dumb, but whatever. The music was cool, and you can't go wrong with Mitsudo Suzuki, so.
True, and then and Tsuyoshi Sekito's on that too, and listeners may recall he did the Sekito's guitar works that we've made reference to a couple times, so he is also a good composer.
He did.
Then we heard Souls of Fire.
I told Rob we had Dark Souls, and we had one of our tracks upcoming, which he was very excited about because he loves the game. It's like our final moment of respite, and it's so interesting for Dark Souls to have that song, because I confusedly thought it was the Bonfire song, which is also very peaceful, but...
It's similar.
Yeah, it's this peace, but it's like this lurking darkness, like bubbling at the edges. Like, you just know when you hit start, a giant, skeleton is going to show up and smash you in the face and kill you once, or you're going to kill him and he's going to get back up and kill you, and you won't have noticed. Or any number of other horrid things will befall you, and it's so great as not only a palate cleanser, because when you quit out of the game and save, you go back to the main menu, so you hear it too. And it's this really great track. Good selection.
And it does a very good job of prepping us for what is to come.
Yeah, because what is to come is going to be emotionally draining. Our final 3 tracks of the day. I picked 2 of them because, why not? I actually consulted a friend on the second one, but we'll get to that. So the first track is, ever since I played Final Fantasy VII, this track has stuck in my mind, and I did not pick those chosen by the planet, even though it's super duper creepy. I picked Who Am I, which, if you don't remember, is when Cloud is like in his own head and trapped and freaking out, and Tifa's trying to like help him find himself. It's just that really just the creepy progression of the music, and just it's such an unsettling song for a moment of that game when something incredibly bizarre and freaky is happening. So I picked that one. And then the second track I picked is called Disturbed and Twisted, and it's from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is I would call it an unpolished gem. I've played it a little past its time, so I didn't quite get into it. But Rob loves it, and most of my friends that have played it adore it. And I asked a friend of mine to tell me, because I knew this game had some really creepy music to it. And this is a very atmospheric song, and it's certainly not something you would sit down and listen to for enjoyment, but it's disturbed and twisted, so it's pretty good. And then we have another track after that.
Right, and in our show notes, Steven lists this, he jotted down the names of each person. I don't know if this was his intention, but each person's tracks were labeled, and mine is labeled Nightmarish A-Hole for this track. I don't know if he was referring to the composer or me, but this is a track that if you haven't played this game, you're going to be like, what the hell is going on? If you have played this game, you're going to be like, why are you making me listen to this again? You're a bad person.
The last 2 minutes of this song.
Yeah, so I apologize. I guess you are listening to the Halloween episode, so
right?
Deal with it. JPEG, sunglasses and all.
This is Halloween.
I'm not going to tell you what this is. You'll either know or you won't, and afterwards we'll discuss. So, Who Am I from Final Fantasy VII, Disturbed and Twisted from Vampire the Masquerade, and Oh My God from Game.
going to talk about Who Am I first, but nope. Let's just address right away that the Earthbound Final Battle song is the stuff of nightmares. My notes on the song are extensive, and most of them end with me swearing. I mean, where do you begin? It's like, it's not even a song. It's like
Right.
droning sound with like beeping and electricity. Then like you have this like drone. It's like in your subconscious, and then you have that like pulsing back sound with that weird kind of doop 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 like that. It's so subtle. And then around 2:30 you get some church bell or like the Soundstone lullaby, right? I guess because I haven't played it.
Yeah. Yep.
And
It's the yep.
And it's not like that lullaby is lulling you into a false sense of security. Derek, you had mentioned that it makes you feel secure. I would actually argue the opposite, because in a song like that, a lullaby is used for one reason, so they can screw you, and that's what they do. They screw you because it comes up, and then the nightmare begins.
Yeah, it's just like grinding metal, gnashing gears
Like-
of death and radio static and. Ugh.
It's not really music.
No, it's very it's incredibly otherworldly. It's something that you would imagine, like this is the sound that a radio makes when it's possessed by the devil.
It's not a song. It's the soundtrack to your nightmare.
Right.
Any nightmare. Welcome to my nightmare. That one. It's like this wall of just chaotic sound and static and just...
And silence too. Like it uses silence really creepily even.
You know what? This is why I respect it, because again, I've only beaten the final dungeon and boss in Earthbound. It's nightmarish, but the reason I respect this is because if you're fighting a final boss in a game, usually it's in a lot of JRPGs and a lot of any RPG, it's this big dramatic showdown to save the day, and you know that inevitably you're going to win the fight, and it has that inherent optimism. And when you're fighting Gygus or Gigas, I always call them Gigas, it doesn't feel that way.
No, there's no optimism. It's unrelentingly bleak.
Yeah, it's bleak, and if you think about these characters, what they're doing, they're out of their bodies, they're in robot bodies, their souls are in the future, fighting something that is so evil it can't even be comprehended.
Yep.
Are your characters going to listen to triumphant music? No, in their heads they're all going to be going, ah!
Yep. And it's such a contrast to the rest of the game that is very, very much like a bright, very, very funny game. It's just so rooted in like pop culture and early 90s America. Lots of jokes and puns and everything is very bright in Earthbound for the most part. And you get to this part and it's just like, what the hell happened? Am I still playing the same game?
Yeah, and there are all those theories, like the abortion theory and whatever, like your Gygus is like an aborted fetus or something and you're destroying it, or you're killing the baby, and just all these nightmarish and there's that story that the dialogue Gygus starts saying, like, oh, help me, it hurts, comes from a movie where the creator of the game accidentally walked into a movie theater where a character was being raped on screen.
I think it was like he saw it at home, I thought. Yeah,
like something like that. I don't know if there's any veracity to those rumors, but the fact that they exist tells you the kind of mind that people are in when they're hearing this. This is pure terror and utter complete success. And it really harkens back to that. I've made it a couple times on Random Counter this point, where you can't have good humor and good drama without both. That's why I would argue that the plots and Tales games in Final Fantasy IX are so resonant to me, because you see them during good times. Earthbound is this lighthearted, happy adventure with some serious themes, but then this happens, and because the adventure is so happy, when this happens, it feels that much more dire.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Incredibly successful at what it did, and probably I would say the ultimate song that we've selected in this podcast. Not the best song, but the most representative in terms of a creepy theme, spooky atmosphere.
Yeah, if you want to,
pinnacle.
Yeah, if you want to scare trick or treaters, play this in the foyer to your apartment or house, wherever you live.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right? And
or a horrible idea, and you're a terrible person. But.
To walk backwards, Who Am I? Final Fantasy VII. Just that Final Fantasy VII sound font can make some creepy sounds. And first of all, the reason I love that song isn't just because it's just creepy in Piles of Autumn Leaves, but I have this vision of Cloud, like the marionette Cloud, just kind of like waving his head around and being all bizarro, and Tifa being like, what's going on? But then it has the main theme of the game, so you have this sort of sense that everything is out of whack, and like you're questioning even what's happening. Like, who am I? Who is Cloud? It's so tied into the music. I really like that song a lot.
Yeah, I've said it before. I absolutely love recurring motifs. So the fact that this reuses the main theme in a weird, subversive, creepy way is is very powerful in making you feel like things are not what they should be.
I would agree.
Are not okay.
So the middle track, but the last one we'll talk about was Disturbed and Twisted from Vampire. So I watched that sequence on YouTube, and it's very successful. But that is just the muffled, really chaotic piano in the background, and you have that like synthy sound that could be like a siren, or it could be like this high pitched wail.
Oh yeah, they utilized every sound from my nightmares that wasn't in the Earthbound song. Like,
right.
like I can't deal with sirens, so naturally Silent Hill
Just
2 especially was like, ugh. But I mean, I like the Silent Hill games, but man, like sirens are one of my irrational fears, like bomb sirens. So I did not appreciate that being in that song. And there's like that sort of spectral synth that would be the sound of ghosts floating about, reverse notes. Like, oh my god.
That's pretty much it for me. Like right around 1 minute, you have that like twanging sound that reminds me of like Haunted Mansions, and you have like the really hollow Resident Evil sounding stuff around 1:30. But yeah, the backwards notes, I have like 12 expletives after in my notes, backwards notes, because backwards audio anything freaks me out, and they put it in there just enough to throw you off. You have like at the end, it's like all the sound is in like an echo chamber, and there's like this frantic twanging, just whew.
All right, Steven, go play Ballad of the Goddess from Zelda Skyward Sword backwards and tell me how you feel.
No!
It's just Zelda's theme.
That's okay. No. So, yeah. Happy Halloween, people.
Happy Halloween. I hope you guys are all, like, dead.
Yeah.
I don't really, because then you wouldn't listen to our podcast.
Wow, that's mean. You only want them to be alive so they can listen to our podcast?
Well, basically, and pay their taxes.
So that pretty much does us for today. We've done all the scary stuff we can for you. We gave you a little bit of nice fall vibe, get your happy Thanksgiving in there. And we gave you a little bit of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Final Fantasy Ever Reborn. We gave you all kinds of stuff. Albedo ripping people's heads off, or his own. And we close with the most nightmarish song of all time. So there's your Halloween, people. Thanks for listening. So it's kind of hard to believe we are coming up on 12 episodes. It's almost been it's almost our 1 year anniversary. I can hardly believe we have been doing the show for a year at this point almost. It's very exciting, and we're very glad to continue doing it. Our pilot episode last year, or I guess this year, was we did Music of the Year as like kind of an experiment on Random Encounter to see if we wanted to do a music episode or music show. And so that was a little more prescriptive, I guess. We had it very planned out. What I'd like to do this year is do like a crazy music celebration. I just want to have as many guests as possible. Kyle, you're more than welcome. Even if you don't have any picks, Kyle, please feel free to come along and just listen and talk about the music. We're not going to have a theme. It's just going to be your favorite music from the year. And on that note, I would really like to get listeners' picks too. Even if you don't normally write into us, and if you heard some music this year that you just really love that we haven't already played on the show, or heck, even if we have and you want to hear it again, We'll go special with this one. Go ahead and email us your picks, or you can hit us on Twitter. You can come to the RPG Fan Forum, and just tell us what you'd like to hear in the Music of the Year episode. And if you want to write a little blurb on it, we'd be happy to read it. Unless you're just write like F hate awesome, which I guess I would read. But yeah, if you have anything you want to hear on Music of the Year, do let us know.
Absolutely. And as always, be sure to send us your suggestions, ideas for topics, things you'd like to hear, ways we can improve. Anything at all that would make the show a more enjoyable listening experience for you, please send it to us, except for if you want Steven or I to stop being on the show, because that's not going to happen. Sorry.
No.
But you can get in touch with us via several ways. You can go to the rpgfan.com forums. You can contact us via email. I'm Derek at rpgfan.com. That's DEREK. Steven is Steven M at rpgfan.com. Steven with a PH. You can also get to us via Twitter. I'm at EmbryoNX, and Steven is at SJMTalis. You can see our Twitter handles on our staff pages on the site, as always. And if you could vote for us, or rather review us or rate us on iTunes, that would be amazing. Every single review and rating makes us a little bit more visible on iTunes. Plus, it strokes our egos and generally makes us really happy. So
and I like both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So be sure to tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mom, even if she doesn't listen to VGM, get her into it. Get her on iTunes. Make her write a review. I don't even care if she uses 10 exclamation points at the end of every sentence.
Make her listen to our podcast and get her into it. That's a great way to do it.
And she's a great lady. I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and so, if she's not, get her into it anyway, because we don't care. We don't judge our followers.
I judge a little bit, but that's okay. No, really. Get in touch with us anyway you guys want to. We've got information on our pages. So as always, thank you so much for listening, and we have one final track from Kyle to close us out.
And I chose the most disturbing of all the disturbing Shadow Hearts Covenant battle themes. It's called Ladder to Heaven. It's the battle versus Amen.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Kyle, thank you for being here, as always. Derek, thank you for always being here.
Yep.
And Kyle, thank you for picking Shadowheart's music. You know me. I love having it on here. So taking us out, Shadowheart's Covenant, Ladder to Heaven.